Hello, and thank you for coming to my channel on YouTube. And my talk show is called Tell It Like It Is. And I'm your host, Morris Mann, and my co-host.
Joseph Spencer.
Okay, Joe, how you doing today, Joe?
I'm up and alive, man.
Good.
And
It's a
you?
good day in New York. You
It's a
know,
good
say
day in
hello to
New York,
everybody
man.
out in New York.
Hello, New York.
For some reason, people think we broadcasted from Chicago because we're from Chicago.
Yeah.
But I haven't been to Chicago in a while. How about you?
Oh man, it's been so long I forget. New
Okay.
York's home now.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, today we're going to do, I guess we're going to have a hot button topic, as they say. And this is a topic that gets many people over the years killed, literally. You know, when you start talking about this topic, the guns come out. And oddly enough, it's religion. And like George Carlin once said in his comedy routine, but he was being serious, that more people have died in the name of religion than anything. You know, and it's so sad and it's so true. But anyway, we're going to discuss this thing, or should I say this book, out of respect. I didn't mean any disrespect by making that statement, but we're going to talk about the Bible. I think all of us have a Bible in our home. Mine says Gideon's. I don't know what Gideon's mean. You know,
Well-
I'm ignorant. I'm sorry.
Gideon was a printer.
Okay, see?
Gideon's
That's why
Bible.
Joe is here to help me out to create the balance.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about that because I'm going to make a statement and let me know if you feel if this is a correct statement or a good analogy of this topic. We, for the most part, have been taught to believe that everything in this book is the gospel truth. Now, would you say that that's a safe assumption?
Well,
or
I've been
statement?
taught all my life that the Bible was gospel. That's the word,
It's
gospel
infallible.
truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Infallible.
Exactly. And today we're going to kind of just, blow the lid off the mother, as they say, or tear the roof off the sucker. Because as I've gotten older, I've done my own research, just like I'm sure Joe has done his own research, and we come to find out that's a bunch of bull. You know, half of this stuff is stories that were written by men who put them in the Bible. Because again, we were left to believe that this is God's word and man was just the editor. This is God's thoughts and man put it in the book. No, I'm sorry to say that the majority of the stories in this book is just that. They're stories that man have made. But somewhere along the line, someone taught us or preached to us that this is everything that God said and you're supposed to live by this. And it's really ridiculous. And I know I'm going to get a lot of people upset, but hopefully while I'm getting you upset, I'm getting you to thinking and go out to do your own research, because stories, this ain't, it ain't really etched in stone in God's word. But, I'm going to turn it over to Joe and let, give me your thoughts on
When I started thinking for myself, I began to realize to myself that if God had written that Bible, the verses in it would have more power on man than it does.
Okay.
And it seems like to me, the less a person's position is in life, the more they cling to the Bible.
Okay.
Now, there are wealthy people who pay their tithes,
Mhm.
and
Let's talk about the task just for a moment.
okay.
Forgive me, because I don't know everything, but when I don't know something, I ask questions. Why do I got to give God my money? Why do God need my money?
Well, tithes started with the Jews.
Okay.
My God, hundreds of years before it was written in that book, the tithes were wealthy Jews that 3,000-4,000 years ago. They would take people in, and doing high holidays, and tithing came with you gave people 10% of your crops,
Okay.
10% of your cattle and stuff, to eat. You gave them work. And then all of a sudden, when people start taking monies to the tithes and to these big churches. It wasn't intended for all that monies to go to just that one organization, but down through the years, I think the Europeans had a lot to do with that. Most of these religions
Come
are
from
Europe,
Yeah.
Anglo-Saxons. People have been beat down and trodden by the church and forced to believe in certain stories. That's why they have the separation of state and church. At one time, the church had just as much power as the state did. If you, the high priest and stuff, if you went against their words, they would actually slaughter you and say you were demonic. I forget what do they call it? Heresy.
Okay.
They would kill you. run you out of town if you didn't agree with the church.
Well, in this day and age, we're kind of still doing that practice.
Yeah, well, when I was a child, you didn't want to get to church, go to church. You had to get out.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. It was a requirement.
It was a requirement. You got to get out of my house if you don't go to church.
Yeah. And let me just touch on this because this is very important. We as people of color, we have to start thinking for ourselves, start doing our own research because the stuff is available now. And people, you don't have to be subject to people constantly lying to you and trying to force you to believe something that's just not actually true. And a good example of that is back in the late 70s, Reverend Jim Jones. He was a religious guy, and he convinced a lot of black people, over 800 of them, to quit their jobs, to move out of the country, sell their belongings, and set up a utopia type of atmosphere in Ghana, which was a hoax and a scam. And when the government watched him closely and sent the congressman over there that they killed, what happened then was he decided that he was going to make these people drink Kool-Aid that was laced with cyanide to kill themselves, to cover up the guilt, or should I say, the crime that he committed. Now, a lot of those people wasn't trying to die. They wasn't going to drink it. And the others volunteered because they were still following this idiot. But the ones that didn't want to do it, they were forced by the other ones that did it by gunpoint. So it's just unfortunate that we are that gullible that we follow this religious idiot over there and commit this crime. Because religion is the easiest scam. And I say that because people think this way. Well, ain't no one's going to lie about the Bible.
No.
A whole bunch of people are going to lie about the Bible to reel you in for their scam. Now, I'm going to say this. There are many men and women out there that are serving our spiritual being, and they're doing wonderful things. But there also are quite a few of them out there that have own personal interests, and you better be careful because they're not trying to serve God, they're trying to serve themselves.
Yeah.
So I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, well, Jim Jones, he was a cocaine addict.
Yeah.
He had cocaine psychosis.
Yeah, he had a lot of problems, mental problems.
And mixed that with religion, and then have peoples who have been indoctrinated that the reverend's speech is law. From a kid, you get grown people teaching their children that. I remember one time I had told a preacher that he was wrong. And they wanted to, it was tripped out the way the people related,
Oh, yeah,
he's the reverend. I can't believe you told the reverend. Everybody was, I might as well told him that Jesus was wrong.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, you were taught to look up to certain people in church.
Clergy, well, in your community.
In your community.
And the clergyman was high on that list.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that if these people are providing a truthful, realistic encounter, or should I say story of, the religion, or accurate picture of that. But unfortunately, we used to do an exercise when we were in hot grammar school. And you probably done it yourself when you were a kid. They sit you around in a circle, and the teacher would whisper a story into one kid's ear. And when they got to round 3, all the way around 360, that story was totally different.
Totally different.
And it's kind of the same thing with religion. It's like, well, what do you supposed to believe in here? And what I did was, I got some notes here. That's why you probably see me glancing down, because I have a monitor, and thanks for our cameraman, Tom, for helping us out there. Because I don't want to get this wrong. I want to give you exactly what's in here, little segments. It's not Morris Mann's interpretation, it's what's in here. And here's the argument that people have. Or should I say the argument that I have with people. Okay, you believe that a spiritual being by the name of God, Jesus, created this book, and man just more or less was the editor, the writer, but this was God's will and his stories. And you believe that, here's the problem I have with that. When it comes to religion, or even in law, and I'll say this first, in law, you have to obey by all the laws. You can't say, okay, well, you know what, I'm cool with not stealing, but I want to kill. You don't have that choice. Same thing with religion. You either one way or the other, and that's either you in or you out. You're not in the middle, because I give you some examples. They say that you should live by the Bible. And here are just some examples, and they're in there. Exodus 21, verse 7. It's okay to sell your daughter into slavery. That's in the Bible. That's in the Bible. Now, who's going to enforce that law? And if you don't, aren't you being hypocritical at this point now where you say, I'm going to follow some of them, but I'm not going to follow all the rest of them? It don't work that way. Either you in or you're out.
I've never read
Here's
that.
another one right
That's
quick.
amazing.
Exodus 35, verses 2. Anyone working on the Sabbath, which is Sunday, should be stoned to death. Now, who's going to enforce that law, you know? So, again, the argument is if you are really committed to this, you're supposed to live by this, not pick and choose, because it's not for us to pick and choose, but that's what we do. Hypocrites, okay? Hypocrites.
Thank God we're not Jews.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking on that note, and I'm going to put this up on the monitor so people can read along with me. And somebody sent me this actually about 7 years ago, and I kept these because I thought they were quite interesting. And the first one reads like this. It says, religion, the belief that there's always been an invisible man, and an invisible man magically created the world, and two people, and those two people turned into billions of people, and the invisible man threatened all the people with internal of torture unless they showered him with gifts and praises and built many things in his honor. And the invisible man wrote a book through a ghostwriter, but the people changed the book regularly so it means what they want it to mean.
They updated.
All this happened because one man was bored on one day. Somebody sent me that, and I thought it was interesting.
Religion, man, if you read about the Greek gods and the Roman gods, there's a parallel between Jesus Christ and Hercules.
Okay.
You know, Jesus Christ was the son of God. He came down here. That means he's a demigod, you know, like Hercules was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the Arabs have angels, and they have a Garden of Eden, all that. Mm-hmm. You know, they found the Dead Sea Scrolls several years ago, and a lot of the text is the same as in the book. Mm-hmm. But like you said, stories being passed down, and with a written language, you can carry on a story for literally thousands and thousands of years.
If no one challenges
There's
it.
no one challenge it. And that's one thing about the church. You for thousands of years, you couldn't challenge these people.
Well, that's what I like about the scientific community in this area that we live in. Now, we can agree that big clumsy animals that were called dinosaurs roamed the earth millions of years ago. Why? Because just about every single day they're digging up dinosaur bones. You know, but it's interesting. I mean, I'm just going to pull one story out of the Bible, the one where Moses roamed in the desert for 40 years with the people that he freed.
Yeah.
There has not been one dinosaur bone, or should I say one human bone found in the area that's supposed to have been where they walked for 40 years. Not one. And we were here, dinosaurs were here before us. So not one bone. When we try to match up scientific research with these stories, the stories fall flat.
These religious stories were made for people who were sitting in the bush. Like I asked ladies on the street who were church ladies walk up to me and begin to lecture me. Not really lecture me, but tell me what I'm doing wrong and what I'm supposed to do, which from a kid all the way up to now. And I look at them and ask them, do I look like I'm in the bush? They approach you like you have no information whatsoever, like you were not born in the United States. They always start off like you're down here and we're up here and you're a sinner.
That's another thing that's a good point, that as I got older and I would go to some of these churches, that they made me feel like I was less of a human being, or they were higher. And I think that's one of the biggest turnoffs that you can push upon another individual, where you come in, I'm a god. You know, no one wants to hear that nonsense. You know?
And all that has a lot to do with slavery too. You know, you have your Uncle Charlies, you have, you know, your field niggas and your parts niggas. It's the same thing in church. You have the people sitting on the front pew, and the further back you go in the church, the poorer and more illiterate people get. Yeah. It's a status thing in church.
And it's sad because you can accept that, or should I say expect that, in just regular society at work or whatever. But when you go to church, you would like to believe that this is a place where everybody's being treated equal, everybody is respected, their opinions are valued. But I guess like with any other facet in life, it's the same thing in the church, unfortunately. You know, and it's really unfortunate because we have a lot of people that just really want to believe stuff that's just not true, and they're closed-minded. I don't want to be close-minded. If you have some information that make me think twice about this, bring it. Because the more I know, the better I am, and the accurate I am, the better I am.
When I was a kid, I also believed when certain families had 2 Cadillacs at home, their kids were going to college, they were the blessed ones.
Yeah.
You know, they was a blessed one. We're still eating beans and cornbread. We must be doing something wrong because we're not blessed.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to a family member the other day, and my family member looked at me and said, you know, when you die and God come to judge you, and you go to hell, if you lost your head or leg or foot or arm, that's the way you're going to spend eternity. And I looked at her and I said, well, this sounds like a threat.
Yeah.
And she couldn't see that that was a threat. Now, if you've been threatened that you believe in me and do what I tell you to do.
That sounds more like monsters and gangsters
Yeah.
instead of a superior
So-
being
right.
that created us
Right.
and loved us.
And another issue I have, God wouldn't have made you. He made all time. So he knew what Hitler was going to do.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because I want to kind of dive in there, and it's a perfect spot to do that. We have been conditioned to think like this. And I'm sure you've heard this before, and I'm sure everybody out there heard this, what I'm about to say. People tell you this, that everything that you are experiencing in your life, from the time you're born to the time you die, God knows what's going to happen to you.
Right.
I got a problem with that statement, and I'm going to tell you why. This is what I want you to do out there in TV land. If you get a chance, get up one day, perhaps on a Saturday, Sunday when you're off from work. Get up one day and go to your local hospital and go to the children's wing. If you can't find a children's hospital, go to the children's wing and go look at those little tiny babies that are like 2 months old, 6 years old. Their hair is gone. They got tubes all up in their noses and veins, things in their veins, needles in their veins, because they were born with leukemia or some type of rare form of cancer, period. And you tell me, is this God's plan? That these little children, they haven't even started to live, that they're trying to get past the obstacle, and most of those children die before they're 10. If that's God's plan, we got a cruel God, So whenever somebody throw that nonsense up at me about everything that you do is mapped out, well, what about them children in the hospital that got tubes up in their nose and only 3 months old, that's going to die in less than a year or 2 years? We are, without a doubt, the most intelligent creatures on the planet.
Right.
We're also the most destructive
We got
ones.
thumbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that we can do on our own, we don't do.
Right.
We just rely back supposedly on this superior being, And I hear women say this all the time. God's gonna send me a man.
God's going to send me a man.
Yeah, right. God gave you this. It's very powerful. We need to use that and quit relying on him supposedly for everything. Because, if you're dealing with a terminal illness, I'm definitely dropping to my knees and praying, hoping that divine intervention kicks in and save me.
Yeah.
My issue is I don't know who. I can't believe this because this is a bunch of stories. And actually, if you really read this, it's not intended to be interpreted as actual fact. It's stories that we're supposed to live by.
But when you're from peoples who are taught, what's the word? When you believe in stuff that's not true, I can't think of the word.
Atheist?
Not atheist. Superstitious.
Oh, okay.
My mother believed when the thunder and lightning, we all had to get a corner, everything had to go off.
Yeah.
Because God was talking.
Yeah, well, furniture moving. Remember that?
Right.
God's moving his furniture.
God's talking, and I go to school, and they would tell me about positive and negative charges and blah blah. This,
which is what causes that.
right? But my mother's telling me she was scared. Everybody in the house was scared.
Yeah, because she was taught to believe that. And we pass this stuff on.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because, as you just really think about it, just think about it one day. Sit down one day and say, man, does this make sense to me? Now, everything that's true, again, doesn't make sense. I'm not saying that. But the majority of the stuff is just come on,
And at one time, if you said, I don't believe this don't make sense, can I ask a question?
Shut
that
up.
was heresy.
Shut up and be quiet.
Shut up and be quiet.
I'm sure you've experienced this. Most of us have. You have a coworker or a friend or a family member, you see them and they constantly trying to get you to come to their church. They
Yeah.
finally wear you down and you decide to go so they can stop asking you.
Yeah.
And this is a true story. One of my personal and many experiences. I went to this church, and when I went, I noticed that the majority of the young females, teenagers, 16, 17, they were pregnant. And my first thought was, okay, they made a mistake in life and now they're here in church trying to get back on track. No, you know what happened? These women got pregnant while attending church.
Yeah.
By the young guys in the
In church, yeah, it's been going on for. I
I'm
thought
like-
everybody knew that.
I'm like, y'all might as well take the cross off the corner and put a disco ball up, because this ain't nothing but a disco.
You take a bunch of teenagers that are horny
Yeah.
and put them in an atmosphere when they're going through, they develop them in a stage. You go down in the choir room. He see her take off her robe and her little thighs show. You know, she see his chest.
Yeah.
You know, human beings are breeding people.
Yeah.
Young women start going through heat, I think, about 13 years old. When they get on their period, they're ready.
Yeah.
That's why you have to protect them. Young boys, they get an erection every 15 seconds.
Yeah. They're always on.
That's why they say that's a sin. That's the devil doing that.
Wow. Well.
You know? So you put all this stuff in these kids' heads. Hey,
But it's interesting. And we can talk about this topic for hours.
For hours.
But we don't have that time. And as always, I thank you for coming to my channel and my talk show, Tell It Like It Is. I'm your host, Morris Mann, and my co-host.
Joseph Spencer.
And until next time, thank you. And keep thinking.